Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, nothing. I just got done shooting at work today.
Are you still working with that crappy Nikon? It's like a paperweight compared to my Canon.
Wow. Back in the old days, there was no such debate. It was all about how to use and make the damn picture.
Okay, genius, enlighten me.
I will. Starting with the super hard, rock solid plated, absolutely explosive beginning.
Around 1824, Louis Daguerre, a French artist and scenic painter, began experimenting with the camera obscura. He partnered with Joseph Niepce in 1829, who was also experimenting with the equipment. Using a copper plate coated with bitumen, Niepce later abandoned pewter plates for silver-plated sheets of copper and discovered that a vapor from iodine reacted with the silver coating to produce silver iodide. After Niepce died in 1833, Daguerre continued to experiment with the silver iodide-coated copper plates to produce direct positive pictures. Daguerre later discovered that an image on an exposed plate could be developed with fumes from warm mercury. The vapors from the mercury allowed the photos to be produced in 20 to 30 minutes. Then in 1837, Daguerre found a way of fixing photos in a solution of common salt. This completely changed how photography in general worked, especially when people went on assignment. The Crimean War was the first major war to be photographed and to be shown to the public. Roger Fenton, a 36-year-old London lawyer, led the charge of photographers. He was financed by Thomas Agnew, who had hoped to profit from the sales of pictures. And Britain's Secretary for War, Henry Pelham Clinton, also had a reason to show the conflict in a better light. Members of both armies took photos, but Fenton was the first commercial photojournalist to capture the war. Upon arriving, he saw terrible sights, so he chose not to take anything that would offend Victorian tastes, such as those wounded or dead or anything rotting. Instead, he photographed officers' ships, the candid moments. He was never about to take photos of battle because the time to expose a photo took too long. The closest was a photo taken of cannon fire entitled "The Valley of the Shadow of Death." This was meant to represent carnage of the war. These are the first of military life, or of the battle, that was actually shown. It was the public's first
Homeboy, please. I seriously bet you don't know what comes next.
You actually paid attention in your photo class?
Yeah. $10 says I rock you with some knowledge about the black and white and brownie days. Whoa.
The halftone is what actually depicted different tones of photography. The halftone converts the different tones into dots of varying size. The eye has limited resolving power, so at a distance it is tricked into seeing that these dots as a continuous tone. The photo is seen in various tones of black, white, and gray. Since this was still a fairly new process, newspapers didn't adopt it until March 4, 1880. The Daily Graphic in New York produced the first halftone photograph for news with a photo of Steinway Hall, and then it wasn't fully adopted for another 10 years. Paul Levinson, author of the book New Media, suggests that the practice of citizen journalism emerged at the same time when Kodak first introduced their Brownie cameras. Under the notion, you press the button, we do the rest, George Eastman brought out the first simple camera. This allowed anyone to shoot newsworthy events if they were nearby. This would further develop along with the field of photojournalism.
Remind me to go to the ATM tomorrow. I owe you $10.
Yeah, you do.
Well, let me tell you about the Golden Age, where news became art.
Photojournalism really began to thrive in the 1920s. Equipment began to shrink and allow for shooting virtually anywhere. With the development of the 35mm camera and flash bulbs, photographers were able to step out of their studios and practice photojournalism. At this time, they were able to show what life was like for the people, especially those in the war or suffering at the hand of the Great Depression. These photos contained little news but had a great impact, even influencing the start of planned publications. Photographers like Dorothea Lange, Joe Rosenthal, and Robert Capa produced works that showed tough times the world was facing. Lange's Migrant Mother from 1936 gave a face to the Great Depression. Rosenthal's Raising the Flag at Iwo Jima showed the world one of the most iconic moments of World War II. But it was Capa's words, "If your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough," that defined how modern photojournalism worked. The story behind his photo of Omaha Beach in Normandy took closeness to a new level as he dodged enemy fire to get a photo of soldiers ascending from the scene. Magazines such as Sports Illustrated, Look, and Life, the magazine that Kappa was on deadline for, they came to life. They were printed larger to display good photographs, becoming what set the standard for photojournalism for the next 30 years.
That was pretty cool. But what people really care about is about what they live to see. I'm talking about from peace and love to not so futuristic present.
Once the 60s hit, cameras started getting smaller and more sophisticated. Photography actually got a lot easier. Photographers no longer had to manually wind or focus their cameras. With the invention of motor and wind-up drives and autofocus lenses, flashes became electronically controlled and did not require a disposable light bulb. By 1969, modern digital photography was starting to be developed. The charge-coupled device was invented by Bell Labs. But why is this important? This device is the sensor that is in the heart of all digital cameras. Throughout the 70s, scientists were testing with images with enough quality to be used on broadcast television. In 1981, Sony produced the first prototype digital camera. The images were low quality but could be stored on a floppy disk. In 1986, Kodak invented the world's first megapixel sensor, which allowed 5x7 digital quality photos to be produced. And as the turn of the century approached, digital cameras were being produced, and like film, they got smaller and smaller. The miniaturizing and digitalizing of equipment led to a revolution in photojournalism. Early on, professionals would have to spend up to half an hour to send a photo over a distance. Now, digital photos can be transmitted in a second. Citizen journalism really hit its peak. The cameras were easy to carry and the photos were easy to send. News organizations could ask anyone that was on site to simply email the photo to them to meet the deadline. Anyone is capable of owning and using a digital camera for art, news, or recreation. After a span of 50 years, the camera went from the use of celluloid film that only can hold a limited amount of photos to a small card that can record thousands over a long period of time. Only time can tell what will happen next to change the industry.
You're right. Only time can tell what'll happen to change the industry. Coming soon.
Looking toward the future, we aren't going to see much change in the practices of photojournalism, but of the equipment. Lenses will work for multiple purposes such as macro photography and telephoto usage. There's also hope that they will be weather sealed so photographers can shoot in any condition. Next, we will see cameras with unlimited ISO capabilities. This will allow us to shoot in complete darkness. Newer models will also hold higher pixel counts and will have higher resolution and zooming capabilities for quality photographs. As the industry becomes more multimedia oriented, we will be able to use videos to capture still frames. This is already being demonstrated in new HTC cell phones. Finally, we will see wireless and 3G transfers. It will be more important for deadlines as we will be able to send directly from the camera. As of now, Wi-Fi cards provide this capability with internet signal, but not away from a grounded connection.
What are you, some kind of psychic now?
Yeah, I have ESPN. Did I change your channel?
You're hilarious. Oh crap, I'm late for band.
Nice talking to ya.